welcome to 50 Shades Greener podcast, the show where three widely different worlds collide in the most chaotic way possible. Hosted by me, Raquel, the Spanish eco queen, adopted by Ireland 20-something years ago, Kiri, the Amsterdam loony with zero filter, and Nasia, the Dublin-based Indian princess bringing spice and sense. We're here to unpack culture, identity, sustainability, and all the madness in between. So, as we just celebrated International Women's Day last weekend, we thought that it would be fitting to speak about Sustainable Development Goal number 5, gender equality. So, any initial thoughts on gender equality or International Women's Day, ladies?
I can jump in, sure. I mean, just talking on International Women's Day, it's it's a very hot and cold relationship I have with the day, because on the one hand, you want to feel glad that there's a Women's Day at all, and on the other hand, it's disappointing that we need to have a Women's Day. Like in the world, women are discriminated against. There's violence against women. There's so much gender inequality against women. The patriarchy is alive and well. So giving us a day feels a bit like a cop-out. Yeah, like, you have a day.
Here's a day.
There you go. You got your day, March 8th. Enjoy.
Keep trotting along. Yeah, why isn't there International Men Day?
So apparently there is one. And that's something one of our colleagues mentioned.
Stop
I think it's in October sometime. So what will be interesting to note is if that came about after International Women's Day became a thing and the men felt left out, like they needed another day to celebrate themselves. But we do have one, so yeah.
Amazing. I didn't know that fun fact.
I know. I would love to know if it came about after International Women's Day. Like, they came up with International Women's Day and men were thinking, what about our day? We don't get a day? Guys, you get 364 of them. Calm down.
I guess it is fair to say that instead of having one day, we women deserve 365 days, same as men have, really.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, none of us would be here without women. So
exactly.
We bring these children into the world.
Yes,
Imagine if men had the power to produce. They would make it such a big deal, and we're just considered to just do it. It's just who and what we do. But if men were to produce and go through the laborious task of producing and nourishing a child, they would never stop talking about it.
Can you imagine men going around pregnant? It would be quite funny.
I would love to
calling, and imagine calling them hormonal. Oh, you're hormonal.
Anyway, let's get into gender equality a bit more in detail. So I want to start with politics, really, because at the end of the day, the world is in an absolute mess right now, right? Is that fair to say? I don't think anybody's going to argue that. And really, our current situation has been, we're in this situation because of our current decision makers. I'm not going to call them leaders because, a leader has to lead. So they're decision makers. And the majority of them are male. So fun fact, women hold about 27% of seats in national parliaments worldwide, which is just above a quarter. So any thoughts on this, Nasia? What can you tell us about women in politics?
When we were considering what area I'll cover for this podcast, and I took on, women in political leadership, the one thought I had was that women, we cannot lose our femininity while we're in office. It's almost like saying that you have to be man enough to be in a position of political leadership, right? You have to dress in a certain way. You have to speak the same language as the men to be even considered sitting on the same table as them. And I think that's the whole problem, that we cannot, the skills that we've been blessed with, the fact that we're all women here in this room right now, we know how much we can multitask. We know how much personal sacrifice we can do in order to maintain stability and coherence, more for the benefit of the men than ourselves, for that matter. while building a solid professional career and having a stable family life. These are skills which are literally blessed, not
Superhero skills.
they're superheroes, right? And somehow I feel once we're part of a political leadership role, somehow that aspect of ourselves is asked to be like, volume down, don't bring this to the table. We need to have the same sort of like thinking and mentality as the men have. And I think that's the whole issue. And like you mentioned, in terms of 20% of leadership being women, at the same time, I think there are only about 9 or 8 state heads, or rather heads of state, who have executive leadership roles, whereas all others are mostly tokenistic roles, such as presidential roles, where they don't necessarily have executive, authority.
Powers.
And I think, that's the problem, when it comes to political leadership, that women are just given tokenistic, or other ceremonial offices with no real power, while it's still the men calling the real shots, like you said. And I think that's where we are at now, where we see wars which are unhinged and ungrounded. I genuinely feel that if women were in charge, the world would have looked very, very different.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Kiri, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely would. And coming from a biology background and kind of a more biological point of view, there is a time and a place for female leadership and a time and a place for male leadership. And there's a lot of studies out there that you can find that talk about how in times of war, in times of conflict, men or males make better leaders. And in times of peace and calm and prosperity, females make better leaders. And it's hard not to start thinking of a rhetoric that, okay, are we starting wars to feel relevant?
Yeah.
Is this maybe what we're doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I view this as maybe like, the 5-year-old throwing all their toys out of the pram now because somebody hasn't done what I told them to do. And, it's just, it begs belief, sometimes I feel like we're watching a movie instead of the news at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, overall, I think like you said, Nazia, the skill set that females are blessed with, but also taught throughout their lives, I think often does make for stronger leaders, because we are forced to learn emotional regulation a lot younger. We are forced to, we're not forced to, but females are more empathetic because we are the childbearing sex. So we do have a higher degree of empathy. So you're less likely to go and start a war because you're considering all the lives. You're considering all the lives that might be lost, and you're like thinking it through a little bit more from that perspective, putting yourself in someone else's shoes in every decision that we make.
I mean, at a minimum, we deserve equal representation, 50-50, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be the bare minimum that we should be expecting at this point in terms of representation. It's 2026. I mean, if not now, I don't know when, what are we waiting for? But another huge area of concern with gender inequality is pay gaps. Women globally earned about 20% less than men on average. And according to the UN, at the current rate of progress, which is so slow, experts estimate that it's going to take another 130 years to close the global gender pay gap. 130 years. I mean, Jesus, I don't have that much time.
We don't have that much time. The men are making sure that we don't have that much time.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are millions of women that don't get paid at all, but instead they're caretakers for others, for either their young ones or the elderly, so that caretaker that is not considered to have a job. So any views on this, Kiri?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it's wild that it would take 130 years. You'd think it would be as easy as, CEOs, business leaders, business owners looking at all their wages and just going, okay, change all that. Boom, done. Let's give them 2 years as a grace period to globally fix that gap. And that's all it takes. It's not that difficult. So that is astounding. But also, as you said, Raquel, the amount of unpaid labor that women are doing. So what is it? It's about 75, I think it's 76% of unpaid work globally is done by females.
Wow.
So that is the caretaking, that is
Yeah.
the homekeeping, that is the child rearing, that is, looking after family and parents and in-laws and all these kinds of things. 76% of unpaid work. Women
Great.
spend about 4.5 hours a day on unpaid work compared to about 2 hours for men.
Wow.
Mm. And then, sorry. Go
It's
ahead.
like when men do it, then it's like, oh my gosh, he's such a, what is it? You know, they usually say this term, now I'm forgetting it, but like, oh my God, he's such a woman's man to be doing that. I'm just like, yeah, but well, women do it constantly.
I
So,
know. I
yeah.
even catch
He's so
myself,
helpful.
if
Yeah.
I know, if I have friends with kids and the father is being, super involved and doing all these things, sometimes I'm like, oh, what a good dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
don't think that way. He's doing
Regular
exactly what he
dad.
should be doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
dad.
Exactly.
It's like that term, the working mom,
Yeah.
they refer to women that actually
Yeah.
have jobs outside of the home as the working mom. And so if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's not work.
That's not
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Like how I actually prefer to leave the house to
Yeah.
stay and mind the kids. I would prefer to, it's more mental stimulation, I guess, when
Yeah.
you're out in the workplace. But you wouldn't see anybody saying the working dad.
Yeah.
No,
Never.
no, exactly. Because that's the norm. The norm is the father works and the mother takes care of the child. And if the mother also works, then great, she's a working mom.
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
system has not been working,
No,
definitely.
clearly.
The world was
Clearly
working in a
not.
better way. We
We've
could
ended up
continue with that
here.
system.
It's almost like saying we should be the Amazonian women, because it was
Mhm.
just women doing everything that they could, like making their own tools and their own fire. I think that's where we should be at. And I'm not saying I'm a man hater or that I don't think, anything of that sort, that men should be eradicated. I know women
Maybe a
tend to
few of
have
them,
those sort of
Nasia.
extreme notions, but I just want to put it out there. That's not where I'm coming from. But all I'm saying is that I think the world needs that balance, like you said, Raquel. If it's a 50% balance, I think women, we ourselves will feel that we can offer much more, which is recognized, because it's not that we're not doing the work. We're doing our office jobs, we're taking care of our families. It's a bit of a recognition from the opposite gender. If we recognize the successes of the opposite gender, we should be equally celebrated, which again is not tokenistic. It's often said that, oh, you're just a housewife, or like we said, you're just a stay-at-home mom. The fact that we say just and only,
Just.
and just
Yep.
reduce that labor, if we were to change anything, it's, I think, the vocabulary that we use to,
Yes.
to explain any of this, that it's
Yeah.
still a celebration, doing your house job, doing your work at home, or that you're able to take care of your children while managing your professional career. So I think it just requires that bit of a recognition, and I think that can only come from the opposite gender.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if you think about it, there's a lot of different, especially nowadays, there's more historians coming out and more studies that show how much women have actually been written out of history. So not only is the recognition not there currently, it has actively been removed from our
For a long
history
time.
books,
Yeah.
from what we know today. And I find that really shocking. There was one that, we know about, Plato and Aristotle, but their teacher was a woman. And
Yeah.
again, I don't remember her name, which is shocking to me, because I
Yeah.
saw it and I tried to commit it to memory, but you don't hear about it. Do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so just being the recognition, absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we finish up, I wanted to switch gears a little and talk about another gender inequality, massive issue we have for a while, and that's in healthcare. So this is, I guess, quite important to me at a personal level, because I suffer from an undiagnosed endometriosis for years and years. Obviously, the disease debilitated me, and towards the last few years, to the point that I was a recluse. I couldn't leave my house. Most days I couldn't even get out of bed, and I was passed on from doctor to doctor, all males, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
They would prescribe me pain medication, and they would literally tell me to put up with it, that every woman suffered this kind of pain once a month. And I just can't even describe, how it actually makes you feel about yourself. Not only you're in agony pain, you're also being told that you're a hypochondriac. You've been told you're hysterical.
Yeah.
You've been told everybody suffers this. What's wrong with you? You know,
You're being gaslit.
completely gaslit. It came to a point, a gynecologist who I'll never name names, but at 38 years of age, I asked for a hysterectomy and he laughed in my face.
Wow.
And so I ended up having to go to Northern Ireland to get my operation. And as soon as I met my brilliant gynecologist there, I told him what had happened. He profusely apologized for the entire healthcare system and what I had endured. And he said that should have never happened to me. So, you know, there is so much inequality in our healthcare systems, you know, and I came up with a bit of data there. So the average time to diagnose endometriosis in Ireland is about 9 years. Can you imagine
wow.
9 years?
Wow.
Can you imagine if
That's
this was a
horrible.
disease that men could actually get? Like,
Oh my
how long do you
goodness.
think it would take to diagnose this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, healthcare is definitely a very difficult area. You know, around 2/3 of women report to have experienced gender bias in healthcare, and normally symptoms being dismissed, pain being underestimated, and delayed diagnosis are kind of the three things that women complain about the most. But even a large UK survey found that 50% of women felt dismissed because of their sex, and 64% were told that their pain was normal or psychological. I just can't wrap my head around that one. How can
No.
a human being tell another human being that your pain is not real? You know, it's outstanding. I just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think physiologically, women have just been, we just know pain so much better than men. And I will go back to the point we made right at the beginning, that I think there's this show called Fleabag, and I think I mentioned this to Kiri before, that she should watch it, that it talks about, you know, there's one scene between the protagonist and another character in the show, and the protagonist is talking about how, you know, women just have it harder. And the other character explains it to her that the fact that women feel so much more is because we are physiologically ordained to feel pain right from puberty. You know, with our periods coming in, with childbearing, with nursing,
We're
with
trained to be
menopause.
in pain.
Exactly. We're trained
Yeah.
to be pain. So we're not
Yeah.
actively looking for that sort of kick that pain also gives you externally. Whereas men, on the other hand, because physiologically they don't know what pain really feels like, they have to actively pursue it, because that's also some sort of like a need almost. So it's again going back again to the health crisis, that, you know, this disbalance that we see is also because a lot of that diagnosis is done by men who've not literally and physically experience the pain, which is where it's easy for them to say, oh, calm down, you know, it's not as bad. Well, you've not inhabited a woman's body to really know what the
Even
threshold
clinical
of that pain is.
trials are done in men more than in women. So then we're coming up with solutions for the male sex that don't necessarily apply to females, you know. So it's, the whole system is just,
That's why, I mean, the doctors are dismissive, but the healthcare system, like you said, it's built on a foundation of studying men, geared towards men, and to be honest, specifically white men. Globally, like this is how we've built the healthcare system around it. And so not only is the whole basis set based on the male anatomy, male physiology, but then you have all these male physicians who are dismissing you, saying it's all in your head, gaslighting you. And one of the most shocking things that I looked at before this podcast is there's 5 times more scientific studies on erectile dysfunction than there is on PMS related anything.
Lovely, isn't
Wow.
it?
5 times more on I'm going to say it again, 5 times more scientific studies on erectile dysfunction, which affects about, I think, 18% of men globally, versus anything to do with PMSing, which affects
Every
almost
single
100%
woman.
of women.
It's embarrassing, if I'm honest.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Like,
I
you
laugh
know,
because I'm so shocked at how much funding and time and money and energy and research has gone into something as trivial as
what's erectile dysfunction like? And I wonder how much money we're investing on figuring out women's orgasms as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Probably
so little.
0.1% of what we're investing on men's erectile dysfunction, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. But anyways, we're going to leave it there, ladies, because it's been more than 20 minutes. We talk too much. But thank you for joining us again one more week. And if you want us to speak about any specific topic, leave us a comment below and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Bye.